So Michael's up there right now. He's putting on our roofing boards. So this is the inside of the house that we'll be looking at, and then we're gonna have insulation on that, and he likes to explain all that, but he made a nice, he put some nails, made it easier so you don't have to tire yourself out by wrestling it. So then he just pushes it back up, and it's easier than having to hold it, and if you forget something you can sit it down easily. Saves your back a bit. So yeah, we're getting the roof on. Fall is here. We've had 30-degree weather. A very, very light frost on the squashes, but everything else up in this garden, up here behind the shed, didn't freeze. Down this little drop, it did, so at least that'll show us for next year. Put our squashes in a hardier spot. Hi.
Hi.
I love you.
Love you.
How's the view?
It's beautiful from up here.
I know, the sun's finally here. So what are you doing?
Putting up ceiling boards. So this will be the inside of our house. You see this, but it also serves as our roof. This is our roof, and then on top of this we'll have 2.5-inch rigid foam insulation. And then on top of that there'll be kind of strapping. So there's an air channel underneath the metal roofing. So the metal roofing is not right on top of the insulation. So in the summer when it gets hot, hopefully the air channel keeps the insulation cool. We'll see how that works.
He's also doing a bit of overhang. Why are you doing the overhang? Obviously it makes sense, but...
just for a drip edge away from the house, too. Only about 7 inches or so. Not too much.
My parents made us that. It's really cute. So today we're out getting water at the spring, and I spotted some chicken of woods up in the forest. So Michael shimmied all the way up the hill. It's a really steep hill too, and we found pounds of chicken of the woods. So I wanted to show you guys 2 ways I'm dehydrating them. So I'm just using smoke, and yes, I know it's going to taste like smoke, and I'm fine with that. I'd rather have nutrients, and also we can have smoky flavor in certain soups. I'm not going to use all of those in a soup. I'm going to add more onto this too. So I just broke them up into smaller pieces, and the heat from the fire is already starting to make these lose some moisture. And then the second way we're drying them is this is the second way we're drying them. We have them just strung up on a pole. We're going to add some more string. We left a couple spaces, enough room. We just wanted to make sure that this would stay. But this is great protein for wintertime. Great for soups. You can we batter them and fry them up. So you could rehydrate these big chunks, just let them sit in water. People do that with meat anyways, but this is free foraged food, gifted from the earth, so yeah, how can you go wrong? And we didn't put knots underneath these. They're just pulled up into the mushroom themselves, and right here it's knotted so it doesn't fall off. But if you forage mushrooms, you can also pressure can them. We don't want to do that because it loses nutrients, and this is just the purest way of doing it. So yeah. Chicken, get. I also want to say this is something probably used traditionally. We were talking amongst ourselves and thinking it would be great to have a woven mat, because obviously people wouldn't have had screens back in the day. And just have a small, low fire going, nothing too roaring. And I'll do multiple batches over the few days coming. enough to dry for the winter. I expect to have a few jars, so that's a great couple soups. So we don't have power out here, and that doesn't stop people from dehydrating food. I mean, you have to think about what people did back in the day. They didn't just turn on electricity and have a dehydrator, and they probably didn't have the great pressure canner, even if obviously a few hundred years ago. So our ancestors speak through us. This is how we can dry our food with keeping the most nutrients in it. I mean, obviously heat kills all the good stuff you want, but a low, slow smoke heat will hold this. And some of this stuff is already starting to dry out closer to the heat, obviously, but it's very, very low. I mean, I can get really close to it and it's nice. But, so there's this one way of doing it if you have no power. And there's also this way of doing it. And we're doing both because obviously the other is going to be smoky, and that'll be great for soups that you want to have smoke in it. Beef, anything a little smoky. We're not going to use a whole bunch, it's just like another seasoning or another flavor. And this is the other way. It's just, we weaved it. Michael carved out 2 little wooden needles, just big enough holes to poke through. Because if you use a regular needle and thread, it's too thin and it's just not going to hold the weight of these. These are pretty heavy when they're moist. So yeah, this was a great find. We have probably about, feels like 20 pounds, probably less, maybe more, I don't know. But we're proud of this haul. So yeah, get out there and forage. What a crazy year. So Michael and I looked everywhere for canning jars. We're literally using whatever we can that has a seal. So this is old salsa jar. This is a normal one. The last one. We're using old peanut butter jars. We're literally doing what we can to just preserve the rest of our harvest. What's normal to us every year, such as canning and preserving and pressure canning, is now becoming normal for most households, and we thought we had enough jars. This is the last of our jars, and sometimes you don't need a huge jar. You just want this for a soup. So we have some tomatoes going right now. We harvested up some squashes this morning, just in case a frost comes. Some leftover rhubarb we're going to try to can. Even if we just get one, it's better than nothing. Food is security. Feel a lot safer having one jar of something than no jar of anything. So, yeah, I just wanted to share with you guys how scarce jars are. We went to a few stores and they all said even the warehouses are closed. So, that kind of goes to show you that there's a big hit in our food system. Michael and I have prepared for this moment. We always knew something like this would happen. But that's why we have these fruit trees and nut trees planted for more protein and, food for our chickens and not only us. So I'm going to go harvest some sunflower heads as I'm speaking about our animals. That way they have snacks for wintertime. If you guys want to ensure some food security, maybe look into some nut trees or fruit trees or hazels or elderberries. Food and medicine is important. You don't have to get everything from your home, you can share, but to just secure a few staples is better than regretting it. So we're getting close to fall. Well, actually fall's here, so winter's next. So we want to share with you something we do for wintertime. We render down lard. We make lard. We render down all this pig fat. So we're kind of prepping for that. We dug this pan out of a old barn It was in the yard actually. It was covered in dirt. We cleaned it up well. Michael's out there sanding. We're getting that roof on because we know it's cold. It was 28 last night. We have baby chicks and all the chickens and ducks we have to focus on, and the goats too. But we do want to make sure we're warm, so we're making sure we get our house closed in. And then next is a chicken coop. But food prep. We're canning tomatoes and green beans. And getting lard rendered. So this will be shelf-stable, and this will last us probably most of the winter. We'll get a few more pounds. This is from a local farm, so 2.5 pounds of lard. We'll see how many jars that makes, and we want to have at least 6 jars because we make a lot of biscuits with it, and if we can get more, that'd be better. So we'll show you later.
So, sorry for not including you guys in this process, but we're kind of rushing to get it closed in. It was 29 degrees the other day. We've had a couple frosts. So, you guys saw that we had some help raising the rafters, and then since then, we've put a bunch of boards on the roof. So, the roof is now a roof. I just put the rest of the sheathing on today. So it's kind of closed in. We just gotta we're gonna put some tar paper down on the roof tomorrow maybe. And we got a bunch of insulation. You can see it over there. It's 2.5 inch rigid foam insulation. So we got that, we're gonna put that on top of the tar paper. There's still, a little gap right there we gotta close in. The chimney pipe's going out right here. So we won't close those in, but we'll close, some of these smaller gaps in. But I don't really want the house to be too tight because moisture issues and draft issues for the stove too. We got up there closed in today too. Another little gap that we gotta fill in, no big deal. And same with the gaps on the roof. We put the boards up green. They weren't like super green, but they definitely weren't seasoned for a year. So there's gaps, and the boards might still shrink some. Like I said, though, it's not a huge deal. We're just gonna put some tar paper down, and and then insulation over that, and then there'll be a crib to hold the insulation in, and then on top of that insulation there'll be strapping to hold it down, but also for a small air channel, just so the tin isn't sitting directly on the insulation. That way it won't get too hot in the summer. So we're really happy with the way it turned out. The collar ties look pretty cool. There's lots of blue stain on the pine. You might not be able to see. It might just look like black right now. But there's lots of blue stain on the pine, which looks really, really cool. A lot of characteristic knots. A lot of people like clear pine, but I would prefer it with knots, just because it gives it more character. A lot of cool grain like that. I like that piece a lot. There's even a little bit of red rot starting on the pine, which makes it pretty cool and pinky like. Coda loves it in here. He just keeps jumping in and jumping out. Yeah, you like it in here, buddy, huh? It's gonna be a good size house for you. And there's also some really cool hot pink on some of the pine. You can't really see it right there. But yeah, we're really happy with it.
See it on this board.
Yeah, Shikoi's gonna show you some right there. Yeah, it's kind of pinky looking. So Shikoi likes the differences a lot. I do too. So my Pops is coming in, and we're gonna put some windows in next weekend. No, the weekend, not this weekend coming, but the one after. So there'll be windows in, and then we have a door for the one behind Shikoi. We've got to find a door for the front door. But at least we have all of our windows. Anything else? Oh yeah, we still have to cut our boards for the loft, but we're gonna sand those. So we haven't nailed them down or cut them yet, but we're gonna do that. So Lots of stuff to get done before it's closed in and ready for winter, like putting a stove in too. It's gonna go right here, and Shaqua's gonna be sitting there all the time because she likes the heat. She's burned several pairs of pants standing too close to a stove, but it'll be different now because we'll actually be warm.
Yeah, we'll actually have our own house. That's beautiful. Hear the echo? Woohoo! Done?
Done. I hate this so much. I really do.
So, we are insulating the cabin. And
yeah, this has all been free insulation. Most of it was used, some of it was unused. And we gotta do a lot of cutting because it's not for 24-inch framing, but that's not a big deal because it was free. So,
saves us $500.
yeah, which is a lot of money for us. But some other people spend $500 like it's nothing. So we're just happy to have insulation, and we'll make it work no matter what because we are tenacious.
Also, it keeps it out of the landfill. And
Right.
it's something that's already made that doesn't need to be wasted. And people replace insulation often for spray foam, but this still has plenty of life. And you can tell right here, this is 3 pieces cut. But it works just the same. A little bit more time spent, which we don't mind.
Yeah, and we're just trying our best not to shove it in the cavity because obviously that's not gonna. It's just gonna make it so it's not really insulated. So just spending a little bit extra time cutting saves us a lot of money in the long run. So we're happy about that.
So what Michael is doing is measuring 24 inches.
Yeah, so the stud framing is 24-inch on center. That leaves, it's 2x6 framing, and it's true 2x6. So it's we didn't think that 16-inch on center, which is traditionally what was done. It just didn't make sense to us because our framing is pretty beefy. It just seemed like a lot. Plus, it's less lumber we have to mill, less thermal gaps for heat to escape because wood's not a good insulator. But everybody does 16-inch on framing because that's just the norm. 24-inch framing is a thing. They do sell insulation that's 23.5 inches wide, but it's just not common. So all the insulation that we found has been for 16-inch framing. So we basically have to cut it. Some people would just say to stuff it in and compress it, but that actually negates your insulation. It makes it less effective. It'll still be insulation, but it won't be as effective. You won't get the full R value of your insulation. So makes for a little bit more cutting, but we don't mind.
And it's a beautiful day. It's windy. It's a fall day. Leaves are falling, and goats are munching. So we're spending more time in our cabin, which we don't mind, and that's what we are here for.
Right.
So we're gonna get to it. So this is the swamp we talk about when we get cedar posts.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy commute because it takes all of 2 seconds to get down here.
So this was all cedar, but loggers came and they left piles of post-sized logs that we cut to size and we haul out.
So it's a swamp, so what they did was they kind of laid them down so they could get the giant skidder
See some here.
through. It's weird because they made, like, you know, corduroy roads are usually, like, so say you're trying to get...
It's a house up there.
Yeah, say you're trying to get over to the house, you lay them this way so you can, you know, put the skidder on it. But they laid them the long way, which is weird. Doesn't really matter. We also got the house wrapped up, and I got tar paper on the roof. Shikoi's folks and her sister and her sister's partner were here yesterday, so they helped us with this this house wrap. Hi. With that house wrap right there, because that was like 9 feet tall, so that was pretty. It would have been hard for Shikoi and I to do ourselves, and we still got to do some stapling and some cutting up there. You know, there's little pieces hanging, but it's all wrapped up, so that's it's almost waterproof, so that's pretty exciting. Next step is this week we're gonna get the rigid foam insulation up on the roof and hopefully get tin on. Just gotta buy a couple more fasteners and stuff for that, but after that we will be cooking with gas, because my dad is coming with windows in less than a week. So we'll get all these windows in, and then we got a door, and then we got a roof, and then we can live in here.
So all this house wrap was free. You know, if we had to pay for it, it would have been a lot of money. Some guy had house wrap and tar paper. We had to buy one roll of tar paper. It was $25, but if we had to get, what, 3 rolls that we used?
Right, yeah.
You know, that would have been $75 more that we didn't have to buy for nails or food or whatever.
Right.
So this is how we're building a house super cheap, because we know that there's stuff out there that people don't need. You just gotta ask for it, and there's no shame in asking for people's stuff that they don't want.
It's gonna get thrown away anyway.
A lot of people have stuff.
Right, yeah.
So
We also got obviously we got our ceiling finished, so that's how it's gonna look forever. Yeah, we're pretty stoked about that. We're sanding some boards for the loft. Shikoi can take the phone and show you the bottoms, the parts that are already sanded. Here you go.
So we're gonna trim them up, but see how beautiful they are. So we wanted the light in the kitchen, because the kitchen, obviously, you're doing a lot of cutting. You don't want to have dark and a knife that doesn't mix. So that's our loft and our kitchen roof, ceiling, whatever.
Yeah. And we got our ceiling done, and as soon as we get windows in here and the doors, we can start sleeping in here.
Yep.
That's exciting.
And the hillside, mountainside has turned. When we came in fall last year, we looked at that and we just knew, like, that's what we want to see when we're sitting in here with our morning coffees. And now our dream is coming true, and it's surreal and beautiful. And I think that many people more in the world should do this.
Definitely.
Because
it's easy to do.
People have been doing it for hundreds, thousands, millions of years, up until the last 150 years.
We can, yeah, I mean, anybody can do this. If we can do it, then anyone can.
Kitchen window. There's that hugel mound that you might have seen in a previous video. Next year we're going to plant out with some sunflowers and some kitchen goods, some herbs, and then maybe the following year after that turn it into perennials. We'll see. So in our prior videos, we talked about how we got some barn boards from an old barn.
Yeah, and we're going to attempt to use some of them for floorboards. Some of them are they're really cool 1-inch boards. Some of them have some punk on them though, so I don't know what we're gonna do about them. We've only pulled out a couple.
We're gonna rip them down. This one has really old paper, but it's multiple layers. Like here's somebody's old pattern. This is the newest one. This one's the nicest, but I'm not a fan of wallpaper anyways.
Right. So yeah, for this one, I'll figure out how wide this is. You know, so like 9.5 inches, and then we'll rip it down to 9.5 inches on the table saw or on with our circular saw, snap a chalk line and stuff.
And then we're gonna sand it, and we might put a layer of linseed oil eventually.
Yeah, and we'll probably put polyurethane over it just to harden the floor, because we'll be sanding for like 5 years. Not really, but we'll be sanding for quite a while to get all this stuff off and to make them look nice. But good thing is we're pretty practiced with sanding. Been doing a lot of it lately.
Yeah.
So for the ceiling boards and for the loft boards.
So there's predicted rain, so we are putting some plastic. We're half living in here and half living in the camper.
Well, we're sleeping in the house just because we like to, and
yeah.
And it's
but
it's closed in now. So.
Yeah, we've yet to move the stove, and we want to do a good cleaning of the stove and do a lot of, final touches, but it's just not time yet. But there's our bed for now.
So yeah, we have the plastic up there so we can protect the insulation, so the insulation doesn't get soaked, because that wouldn't be good.
Basically, the truck is the reason I did the similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have, it may have been, but I didn't want to have to get something like
Just kick them if they're in your way. Today is the day. Window day.
Window day.
I'm recording you, by the way.
Oh, you shouldn't do that. I think the Fred's gonna have to go out towards you too.
Yeah.
All right, hold on though. It's almost like dead balls on. I think that's what they call it. At least on the my cousin Vinny. Dead balls accurate. All right. Get that 1-inch piece of board.
All right.
Now we'll get this one. I got 2 or 3 more screws to put in there. But
Look at the sun coming through.
You doing a square?
no.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So we're racing to get everything closed in. We got one side of the roof all insulated and strapped. All we gotta do is cut this excess off, and then we'll be ready to put metal roofing on. I'm working on the other side, but the batteries for our screw guns died, so that's pretty annoying. We're gonna let some of these boards dry. These are some really wide boards that we have, that we found in an old barn, basically, from an old house. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna let them dry, because some of them we weren't able to store them really well. It's not like we have an inside to store them in, so some of them got a little wet, but that's all right. As long as it'll dry out and we sand off all the surface mold and stuff, they'll be good to go. We're going to sand off like some of this old finish and stuff too. And these will be floorboards. We got some windows in. We're still taking off stickers and muntins and stuff like that.
We should take a vote. and see what people think.
Right, yeah.
So do you think we should have, what do you call them?
Muntins.
Do you think we should have the muntins here? Or should we not have them?
Right, so the muntins are those little cross things that come out. I was thinking, since this has no muntins, it's a big picture window, I was thinking for these windows we take them out.
Pop them all out.
Yeah, there you go. For those windows I think we should take them out. And for the rest of them I think that we should take the bottom ones out and leave the top ones. I'll show you what that looks like. Here. Pop right out. I kind of like the way they look with just the top ones. So we'll take a vote. Leave in the comments below what you like. Do you like muntins on? Muntins off? Half on, half off? I'll let Shakoy pop that back in.
Before you break it.
Yeah, we've been sleeping in here a little bit. We're probably going to put the bed in the loft today because we've got a window in the loft too. My dad came and brought all these windows. He built the casings for them. And they're awesome. He tongue oiled them and all. We had a good time. We got them all in pretty easy, with the exception of these last two in the front.
Show them that frame.
So what we all done goofed. My dad sent me the measurements for the rough openings so that I could frame the openings, right? But as you can see here, what we had to do is he sent me the actual measurements for this casing and that casing, and not the rough openings. So I framed to what he sent me, but it's about maybe an inch short or something like that. So I've had to, take a Sawzall, and we eventually got that one in right before he left. But this one we're still working on. And this is the last of the windows that he built that we're trying to get in. So we'll get that in the near future. And before we close the walls in, we're gonna run some wiring too for electric. Yeah. So we're racing to close everything in. Like I said, we got the roof insulated. It's 2.5 inch rigid foam insulation. It was all used, or not used. It was older stuff, but we got it all pretty discounted. We got all the stuff we needed for $180. So we're pretty stoked about that, and all the fiberglass insulation we got for free. So all the strapping is screwed with 6-inch screws down into those rafters, and then we'll just put roofing screws to those strapping to secure the roof.